Hey everybody, it's Dr. Bader. Welcome back to Dr. Bader Knows Hollywood. Today for our episode, we're actually going to be analyzing a male nose. So one of the leading men of the last several decades, Matt Damon. He's been in a lot of really big movies, been very prolific in his career, and he's got a pretty distinctive nose. And I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to look at his nose, kind of analyze the things about it that are a little different. It's definitely not the traditional masculine nose that you might expect. We'll point out a few different features, and I think his nose actually really makes Matt Damon look pretty unique. If it wasn't for his nose, he would look like somebody totally different, and I'll demonstrate that when we do our morphs. So stick with us, and we'll do Matt Damon next. So let's have a look at the frontal view here. Overall, very nice nose. The thing that I'm bothered by, though, is his tip. His nasal tip is very pinpoint, and it's up a little bit too high on his dorsum. And the reason that's a problem is it's kind of feminizing. So if you look at the angle that the alar margins make with the nasal tip, you can see this is up a little bit too high. The tip's a little bit too small, and that creates this area in green that I've shaded below called the infratip lobule, which is just too prominent for a masculine nose. So let's have a look at the morph here. We'll zoom in on his tip. You can see that the nose is a little bit too short. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the tip and make this a little lower on the dorsum. That lengthens the nose, makes it more masculine. We're also going to widen it out so it's not so small. And we're also going to reduce the infratip lobule. This creates a much more masculine nose. You can see here is a short nose. Here's a longer, wider, more masculine nose. When we put these side by side, you can see the difference. Much more masculine on the after photo. I also wanted to show a 3/4 view, which we don't often look at in this series, but here's a 3/4 view that also demonstrates some of the issues that I have. Now the question is, has Matt Damon had a rhinoplasty? Well, judging by this photo, it would appear he has. I'm kidding. This is from his movie Ocean's 13. So this was a prosthesis that he wore, which was simulating a much bigger nose, which I actually think Matt Damon needs. But anyways, back to Matt Damon's nose. You can see that the tip is a little rounded and it's too high on the bridge. So the overall result is a short tip. And he's got this hanging tip or hanging infratip lobule pointed out by these green arrows, which I've shown you before. And this is also feminizing. So let's go to the morph. What I would do is lengthen the nose. So we're actually going to move the tip down. And the other thing we need to do is eliminate the hanging infratip lobule. So we'll move that up, which creates a longer, stronger nose overall. We'll derotate the nose, and overall we end up with something that's more masculine and fits his other masculine features a little better. If you can see, too short, much better, much stronger, much more masculine. Too short, much better. And we'll put the two side by side again. On the left, too short, over-rotated. On the right, stronger. So now we have more of a profile view. Again, you can see the difference. The nose is a little too short, too rotated. The angle that the nose makes with the upper lip in a male ought to be about 90 degrees, and that's not what Matt Damon has. His nose is a little rotated, and you can see it's a much more open angle. He has a prominent infratip lobule, and that is a feminizing feature. So what we want is a longer nose, which I'll also demonstrate, and we want a nose that doesn't make such an acute or an obtuse angle with the upper lip. We'll go to the morph here. We'll zoom in on the problem areas, and again, we're going to raise the infratip lobule and lengthen the tip of the nose, creating a sharper, stronger nose overall, and one that's a little more masculine, which is, I think, the overarching problem with his nose in particular. We don't want to see into the nostril too much, but you can see that it fits with his strong chin and low brow. He's got otherwise really masculine features. We just need to lengthen that nose and derotate it a little bit. So again, short nose, over-rotated on the left, much better on the right. So I keep talking about masculine versus feminine. Let me show you what a really feminine nose would look like. This is a little silly, but I at least wanted to show you the difference. When we lower the bridge of the dorsum and we rotate the tip and we make the tip shorter, cuter, and separate from the bridge line. We've talked about that in the past. That's what feminizes a nose. That's the main difference between a male nose and a female nose. So what I've done here is I'm just creating a more feminine nose on Matt Damon, which I understand that sounds a little ridiculous, but it's just demonstrating here is what a really feminine nose would look like on Matt Damon. Obviously, not all that dissimilar from his current nose, but far away from what I would consider a better nose, which is on the left. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. Hope you learned something. Matt Damon, if you're watching, nothing personal. This is only for education and entertainment purposes. So who do we do next? We want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Tell me whose nose you want me to analyze, who you want me to morph, who would you like to learn a little bit more about. We'll see you next time on Dr. Bader Knows Hollywood.